Love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
And Justice Serve TV on the air. Good to have you along. Hi, Linda Kenney Baden.
Oh, it's nice to see you again, Michael Bryant. I know you've had such a busy 10 days for Justice Serve TV. Before we get into what happened today in the case, which was unbelievably good for Karen Reed, in my opinion, I want to go back to you, Michael Bryant. You are our hero. Not only did you file suit for the First Amendment zone and help win that case right off the bat when we were like nobody's up there, but you went to Portugal last week, Praia de Luz, now that I've learned to pronounce it.
Very good.
And you were investigating for Justice Serve TV, something we started last year, the Madeleine McCann case. And what happened with that? Today there was a huge announcement. So I'm going to throw it to you, Michael Bryant. Take it from there.
Yeah, apparently CNN has been following what we're doing as they're leading tonight with the story about Madeleine McCann and the search for this 3-year-old at the time, now almost 22-year-old, if she is alive, the body of the girl who was disappeared from Praia de Luz, where we've been twice now over the last year and a half, including, I got back last night, right?
Right.
And so what they've done is the German officials have begun searching for the body, a body. And obviously, if in fact it is the body of little Madeleine McCann, that she was 3 years old at the time. So they're searching an area from Praia de Luz further down the Algarve, which is that southern part of Portugal. And we talked about it when I did my last report from Portugal, the focus of the German government. Remember, this is the German government that is looking. Think about that. The crime occurs in Portugal, Praia de Luz. It's UK citizens that are affected, including the missing child. Why is Germany involved? Why are they spending money and time to further investigate this case? Well, we reported this day before yesterday. When did I leave there? Yesterday was a travel day. And I reported from the beach there in Praia de Luz that German officials want to keep Christian Bruckner, the man who is considered the chief suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. They want to keep him in prison. He's in prison now serving out a rape conviction. He was acquitted on a separate rape charge earlier this year, so they can't keep him for that alleged crime. He was acquitted. Now he's supposed to be released as early as September, and the authorities want more time to investigate to find out, if they can connect him to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. So they've been figuring out. I reported yesterday that they've used this very interesting German law where it's a crime to insult, not assault, insult a public official, including a correctional officer. And he was at a meeting that was done in anticipation of his release, and he insulted this female correctional officer, calling her, I think deadbeat tightwad is about as close as I can get to a direct translation. Anyway, not something you might consider even all that offensive, let alone criminal, but in Germany, it is criminal. They figure if they can get him on that charge, they can keep him in prison until after the first of the year. That buys them, another 6 months of investigation. So it is not a coincidence that today they began the search for remains in Praia de Luz and that area along the Algarve. It's obvious what they're trying to do. And that really, really just supports, gives us validation to what we've been reporting and all the money that's being spent to continue the investigation. The interesting wrinkle here is that it's the German government that is actually doing so because they have the guy they think that did it, Christian Bruckner, in custody. So, and I did reach out to Scotland Yard, got the response from Scotland Yard saying they're not involved. They know the search is underway. They support fully what the German government is doing. They are not involved in that. So, yes. You had a question?
Two questions, I guess. The first question is, the rapes he committed, were they against children or were they adults? And the second question is, do they have him at that complex or at that restaurant at the time that Madeleine McCann disappeared? Because he's from Germany and this is Portugal.
Very true. He was kind of known as a vagabond along that Algarve strip. can't blame anybody for wanting to hang out there. It's a very beautiful area. But to answer your first question, they were both older females, not children. One he was convicted of, the other he was not. And so there is no crossover with any alleged crimes involving small children, either sexual assault or disappearance.
Wow. Wow. What a story, Michael Bryant. And, I know the family also released a statement that they're never giving up, finding out what happened to her. But what a horrible, horrible, horrible crime. Just horrible.
It really is. Imagine, this was 18 years ago. I forgot to mention that for those who don't recall, but it was 18 years and a month now. And they've spent 13.2 million pounds in an effort to find the person who disappeared this little girl. Obviously, the parents, as you know, were a chief suspect at times. So imagine how difficult that is. They have been since cleared. And so they've dealt with this disappearance for 18 years and being suspects for a small part of that time. So.
And we did the conversion, by the way, for those who want to talk about pounds. That would be $17,585,490, trying to find out what happened to Madeleine McCann.
Yeah, and so that's what, again, the interesting wrinkle here is that now the German government is investing resources into this process, and it appears that the UK is not claiming to have funded it either. Remember, they had 198,000 pounds. They added last year. They had 108,000 pounds just a few weeks ago to that total that you mentioned. But the German government is not claiming that we're being funded. They're doing it on their own.
Wow. Wow, what a story. Well, I know you're going to keep on it. I know you're going to be back to Portugal. You've already made arrangements to go back there. And let's hope they find Madeleine McCann. I'm hoping still they find her alive. I have great hopes that maybe she's 22 and somebody took her and she was too small to know. We see those stories, but I guess when they're looking at trenches, they're in trenches. They're not looking for a live body, unfortunately. So
yes.
All right. So back to today. You've been in Dedham, and there's been a lot happening in that courthouse, in the courtroom. We started with the continuing cross of Dr. Marie Russell, and then redirect, and then recross, and redirect, and all. And she finally got off the stand like about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then there was, we know the defense had 3 witnesses ready. They had Officer Sergeant Barros from the Dighton Police Department. They had Lucky Loggard, the snowplow driver, and they had another person that we can talk about later. I guess they're going to go on tomorrow, the other 2, because it's a half day. But tell us what happened in that courtroom today, Michael.
Yeah, and how do we know that Dr. Marie Russell was done? Because she was all set. You're all set. So soon as she's all set, then we know that she's done, right? So, I mean, this was the continued cross-examination this morning, and it didn't really go any better for Mr. Brennan than it did yesterday. She is such a good witness because she's not a bought and paid for expert. She's an expert in reality. And so instead of having that attitude you get sometimes with bought and paid for experts, that they can never be wrong and that they're unbending, she just tells the truth. If something didn't go the way that she would have liked, or doesn't support the defense position, she just tells you. But the bottom line is that, and I think the jury would pick up on this, she seems honest. She certainly seems competent.
Right.
And Mr. Brennan is attacking methodology. Isn't it true? There is no methodology for the dog bite. He totally ignores the fact that common sense has a big role here. When you see those wounds to John O'Keefe's arm, how do you not, using common sense, say, that looks like an animal of some sort might have scratched or clawed this guy up in the absence of something better, right? So I don't care how much you may discount what she says because there's a new methodology. I don't really care what a bunch of eggheads had to say. I don't really care if there were peer-reviewed articles by one egghead about another egghead. This woman's in the trenches, and she's dealing with traumatic injuries every day. And if this jury believes that she recognizes this kind of wound as something caused by an animal, dog, bite, or scratch, then the Commonwealth is doomed because they have no other plausible explanation. Is anybody going to believe that the exploding, gnawing tail light is really what caused those injuries? You just have to use common sense. What makes more sense to somebody listening to this story play out? And the animal attack makes far more sense.
Right. Right. And I think we heard though today, I guess they've shifted their theories so many times. So now the theory is that either the bushes caused some of the scratches while he was wearing a hoodie and a shirt, or somehow the tail light little pieces and fragments got embedded in his hoodie, and those caused the scratches. How did that go over to you?
So let's just try and play that out in your brain, even if you're not a physics major. Let's say some pieces of a taillight broke off and got caught in his sweatshirt, not sweater, Mr. Brennan. Are they then to have caused the injuries because he was moving around and there were fragments of the taillight embedded into his hoodie? I guess that's what they're suggesting, because otherwise, what does it matter? And the bushes, but the whole bushes thing was a whole new deal. I've been out there enough to know that those bushes were not a jungle then, they're not a jungle now, and they were nowhere near where he fell. And by nowhere near, I mean, yeah, within 10 feet. But was he hit by the vehicle, pirouette, spin around, bang around in the bushes, then fall 10 feet away from the bushes where they found him? Again, it's ridiculous. It makes no sense. Having said that, that does not mean one juror, two jurors might go, the whole dog bite thing, I don't get it. I don't think there's enough there. But those bushes, there might have been something there that caused those scratches.
Yeah, and then there was this out of the blue thing that you talk about the unfairness. When Dr. Welcher was on the stand, they wouldn't let Alessi, or Alessi, as Hank Brennan keeps.
I don't know why he keeps doing that.
I don't know. It's just rude, quite frankly, after a long period of time. I mean, and especially since yesterday, Miss Dever was upset with her name being mispronounced once.
It's never say Dever.
Never say Dever.
Never say Dever. I yelled at Hank Brennan as we were leaving for lunch. How you doing, bud? How's it going? He did not respond.
I can imagine.
He goes right down the street to the same bagel joint every day with his, patrolman on bike escort. So.
They must love it. The defense attorney for Whitey Bulger, and now they got to protect him as a prosecutor. But out of the blue, out came this. Welcher was on the stand. The defense couldn't ask him, even though he'd incorporated into his report issues with regarding the autopsy, right? And he was picking and choosing which portions of the autopsy. And then there was with regarding to Trooper Paul, picking and choosing there. And he didn't rely on them. He just read them and used portions of them. And therefore, you can't cross-examine Alessi. Today, out of the blue, that no one's ever heard of a name on what was it? It may have been Recross. I
think it was Recross. Yeah.
I think it was Recross. Comes a name Walsh from the Armed Forces of Forensic Pathology or something, who was looked at it, who wasn't called as a witness, never been proffered as a witness, not on a witness list that I could see, never discussed at any trial. All of a sudden, they're allowed, the prosecution is to rely on a report that obviously they must have paid for, or somebody paid for, to say, I guess, that the injuries don't look like dog bites. How the hell did that come in?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that actually came up in a pretrial motion, back in January, and it was ruled that it was not going to be allowed as an independent form. But remember, this guy's opinion was that those wounds were not caused by a dog. That's the upshot, right?
Right.
And he did studies that involved dog injuries resulting in death, which was a distinction that Dr. Russell made. That this, with John O'Keefe, they're not saying the dog bite wounds caused the death. So she tried to distinguish what was being done there. But the fact that it came in out of the blue, this Dr. Walsh, we know why it came in out of the blue. All right, we know, because that's what the court ruled. What the jury does with that, I was trying to weigh it on balance of everything else. Not much, I don't think. I think she did well enough on I think it might have been redirect, swat that away, and distinguish what she did with what this guy did.
The FBI hired him. They said the FBI
that's right.
hired him.
Federal investigation, please.
Yeah.
No FBI. And so if I'm on the jury, I'm thinking, well, cool, bring this dude on.
Right.
Let's hear from him.
How does his opinion get in without him being on the stand? I don't get it. She didn't rely on it.
remember, with an expert, you're allowed to attack the basis for the opinions, including whatever they relied upon. Well,
Right.
where does it say she relied upon this guy? They were using it to impeach her.
Right.
It's
And
just
she said,
sideways.
right. She said she looked at it. She didn't rely on it. He was wrong. It was actually worse, in my opinion, letting him cross-examine on that than it was with with Welcher, who actually used cherry-picked opinions from the medical examiner.
Yeah, and that was another problem with, of course, if you're allowed to do that, then the opposing side should be allowed to point out what you did not use. Was that allowed? No, it was not allowed
No, it was not allowed.
with this
No, of
dude,
course not.
with Welcher.
Why?
Of course not.
Why would
So
it be
I do like how they were able to use, and she's so good to do this. I don't know if she just did this unprompted. I get the sense that she did, but when asked about the alleged statements made by Karen Reed at the scene, were you aware that she said, I did it, I hit him, and then she said, well, I did read something about that, or I saw it on one of the video clips. However, and then she goes into this great dissertation on grief syndrome and how that's very common, and it often results in guilt. People are guilty about what may or happened, may not have happened. How did I do it? Was I involved? Perfectly explained it away, adding her psychological analysis, something she's not even technically qualified to give, but it comes in on cross. So good for the doctor.
It was great because she was saying in my emergency room, I see people with grief all the time. And immediately afterwards, years, they say things and you can't rely on it. And that's why we have science, right? That's why we have science to tell us what's the truth and what's not. And Hank really couldn't object because he's the one who asked the question.
He expected, no, I've never, I really am not familiar with that, or I did not use that in my opinion. Would that have changed your opinion? He didn't get where he needed to go because she said, well, yeah, by the way, here's why that happened. And then he tries to fix it by saying, well, in those interviews, especially Body in the Snow, they were 2 years plus after the incident. Have you seen it last that long? And she could have answered that better. She said something like, well, yeah, it can last for years. The fact is, in those interviews, Karen Reed was talking about contemporaneous statements made back at the time she discovered John O'Keefe's body. That ties it all together in that grief syndrome that the doctor talked about. She's not talking about it 2 years later like it's still affecting her 2 years later. Come on.
Yeah. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But I don't know. I thought the jury should love her. But as you said, we never know what juries think. I think that the Commonwealth had really bad several days, and you see that Hank's trying to disrupt them, right? He's objecting. He's taking really long to get to the end of the day in his cross-examination, so they can't get to more witnesses. And I just think that it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. You had yesterday when we started with the reading of the Proctor text that Hank read quickly. We got to read them on our show last night, by the way. We read everything.
Oh yeah.
We read not only those texts, we put all the texts, including when he talked about how she defecates in her pants. Okay, pretty disgusting from former trooper Michael Proctor. Jackson forgot to say former trooper at one point. They got the bias in. Then you had Miss Dever, whose his career in law enforcement, in my opinion, is over. It's done.
I think you're right. Yeah. Maybe a security guard at Target. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if anyone would want her as a security guard at Target, but she can't testify anywhere. She's got all these false memories. Oh, did anyone really believe? I think people believe that when she said, "When I spoke to the FBI, I told them that." But you then convinced me. You implanted that false memory. Who you? The defense? You? Right? She's got a team of lawyers, and all of a sudden she's blaming the defense. And the judge allowed it to happen without saying, "Hello, hey, hello, you're in my court of law."
I think she was sabotaged by the Commonwealth. I think they fed her a line, this whole, artificial, memory that the defense had planted on her, and convinced her that was going to be believable. It'll help you, get you out of any issues, help us. Just go with it. I think they sandbagged her. It's brutal.
Well, I'm not sure they sandbagged her. I think they promoted that kind of testimony, and this is the problem. When you have, and what people are seeing is that the Commonwealth is promoting testimony. The people are getting attacked if we tell the truth. The anti-Karen Reed people are attacking people. Nan Gallagher said her page is being attacked by trolls. I troll back at them, not troll back at them, but I answer them.
Yes,
I
you
say, come on
respond.
show.
Yes, you respond responsibly. Yes.
Yeah, I come on our show. You want to show your face? I mean,
Yeah.
I defended you and me when they called us geezers. I didn't even know what you had to go
Well,
look it up.
Sonny, I tell you. Yeah.
I need my rocking chair.
That's right. Yeah, I did respond to one of those as well, and I wrote something like, "I'm sorry, I can't remember what you're talking about."
Speaking
how it
about
is.
that, Hank Brennan disrespected her, right? I know the jury's mostly younger, but I think younger people understand being dissed. And when he said to her yesterday about, he was talking about her testimony, and she testified so many times, she said, do you have a problem with your memory? When she couldn't remember which testimony he was talking about. I thought that was such a disrespect. I mean, I almost felt like there was a silence for like that second in the courtroom, like, did he really say that?
I know. And you wonder if he's saying that out of frustration, or if he's just a cruel dude, or thinks he's making points. It's just not. It's those are just typical interpersonal skills that somebody should know. They aren't helping, but he doesn't seem to care. I don't know.
Yeah. Now, I know we have a start question, which we will get to. That's Diddy, but we're going to do it a little bit after we do Karen Reed. So just hang on, ML, okay? Just hang on there, not to disrupt the Karen Reed flow. So then today we end up with, we have Dr. Russell, and he's followed by, they get Officer Sergeant Nicholas Barros from the Dighton Police Department. And to me, this was the nail in the Commonwealth's coffin. Not only do you have and we haven't even gotten to ARCA and all those other people yet. He saw the car. He wrote a report. There was a slight crack on the side. He pointed it out in court. And then it's Alan Jackson shows him, and we're going to play this for you, pictures of the car as it was in the Sallyport. And by the way, guess what he said, Michael Bryant? Should we run it?
Yeah, let me see. Now you're putting the pressure on me. Let me see if I
All
get
right.
this thing
I'll
fired
talk
up.
to you while you get it fired up. He puts the pressure on, and then Hank Brennan goes after him in cross. We're not going to show the cross. We're going to show the direct, and even better, we're going to show some of the recross. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay, hold on here. Hold on.
This is what a police officer should be. This is who he should be, an honest cop. They should be giving him promotion. He should be running the Boston Police Department. He should be running the Massachusetts State Police. This is an honest police officer. Dighton Police, you have a gem, a real officer in your department, and you should give him all the accolades you can. And so should we. Tweet it out far and wide, everybody. What a great man Nicholas Barros is.
The response to the guy has been uniformly like, what's he got to lose? Why would he be there lying, making things up? So let's listen to some of that.
Okay.
On January 29th, 2022, did you receive some sort of a call to respond to a particular location? I don't want the address of the location. We'll get to that in a second. Did you receive some sort of a call in the afternoon?
I did.
Describe that for the jurors, please.
Around 2:30 in the afternoon, I received a call from the troopers assigned to the Norfolk District County DA's office in regards to a vehicle that was at a residence in the town of Dighton.
What were you asked to do? Why did you get that call?
The troopers said that they were coming into my jurisdiction, and as a courtesy, they wanted me to respond with them.
Is that sort of normal protocol? If you go into somebody else's jurisdiction, you let them know?
Yes.
So that was not necessarily unusual?
No.
About what time did you receive that first call?
The first call was around 2:30 in the afternoon.
Was there are logs kept of those kinds of things? If you get a call, you respond to the location?
Yes.
At some point after you received that first call, did you receive any other call specifying a time of arrival for the MSP troopers, anything like that?
I did.
Describe that for us.
I got a second call around 3 p.m. From Trooper Michael Proctor stating that he was about 10 minutes away from the address in Dighton.
At the point that you spoke with Michael Proctor, had you ever spoken to him in your professional or personal capacity ever before?
Never.
Did you know the name? Did you know who he was?
I did not.
Complete stranger.
Complete stranger.
What time did you actually arrive at the residence?
I arrived at the residence, I believe it was 3:27 p.m.
Sergeant Barros, did you, I don't want the address, cameras are rolling. Did you respond specifically to a residence in the city of Dighton?
Yes,
Did you at that time know who lived at that residence, who resided there?
I did.
How did you know that?
Early in the shift, when I came on at 8 a.m., the midnight shift, the outgoing shift, had told me that a resident of Dighton at that address had called looking for a ride to Brockton Hospital.
Who did you know at that time, or who did you believe to live at the address that you are now responding to?
William Reed.
That was Reed, R-E-A-D?
Correct.
Okay. Did you know anything about his daughter at that time, or did you just know the name William Reed?
I just knew William Reed, the
Okay.
name.
At the time that Michael Proctor called you, did he say anything about what his intentions were once he arrived at the location?
Yes, his intention was to retrieve a vehicle that he said was involved in a homicide.
Did he specifically say to you at 3 o'clock-ish in the afternoon, he intended to seize the vehicle?
I believe the first phone call, that was his intention.
Meaning all the way back to 2:30.
30 is when he first called me and said that they were coming to Dighton to retrieve a vehicle that occurred in a homicide in Canton.
And you understood that to mean what? Retrieve a vehicle.
Seize.
Thank you. What was your role once you arrived at the scene at the Reed household?
My role was Trooper Michael Proctor asked me to facilitate a tow to tow that vehicle.
Was that a private tow company?
Yes.
And when you say facilitate a tow, what does that mean?
He asked who we used for towing vehicles, and during that period of time, it was Diamond Towing.
Did Diamond Towing ultimately show up, a representative of that
They did.
tow company with a tow truck,
Correct.
a flatbed?
Yes.
Who was with Trooper Proctor when you arrived at the scene?
Sergeant Buchanan.
Had you ever met Sergeant Buchanan before?
Never.
Did you know him?
Nope.
Do you know him professionally or personally?
Never.
Had you ever spoken to him?
Never.
Ever? I'm so sorry. It's getting late in the day, and I guess I'm going too fast. Sorry, my fault. Let's start that just a little bit slower. Did you know him?
No.
Had you ever spoken to him before?
No.
Had you ever heard his name before?
No.
No relationship whatsoever.
None.
Same with Trooper Proctor.
Correct.
Once you arrived at the residence, did you have an opportunity to see the vehicle that was the focus of Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan's attention?
Yes. Once I arrived and I parked my cruiser at the end of the driveway, I observed a black Lexus SUV in the driveway.
What were you driving?
I was driving a Ford F-150 police cruiser.
A police cruiser that's a Ford F-150?
Correct.
They have those?
Yes.
Cool.
That's one of those real kind of moments where, you know, Alan Jackson's being Alan Jackson, and he's asking about the police cruiser and a Ford 150. That's a pickup truck. And
Right.
so he said, oh, that's a police vehicle? Yeah. And he says, oh, cool. So it's so important here because we're establishing that Barros has no loyalty, no connection other than they both are law enforcement, or they all are law enforcement, to Buchanan and to Proctor. Why? Well, obviously that way he's not going to do them any favors. So it's very important this jury understands this guy's not hooked up, right?
Right. Not only that, what I thought was really interesting is and we'll get to sort of like in cross-examination, which is the icing on the cake. But remember, for our viewers, he testified he was called by the Commonwealth last year, and he was not cross-examined by the defense. And I didn't ask him one question because I guess they thought his testimony was good. And we can talk about that when we get to Alan Jackson's final redirect. But
yeah, that's such an important point.
Agreement.
Because even when he talks about one of the questions he was asked the first time, and I think Brennan said in the first trial, first proceeding, you know, like nobody on the jury knows there was a first trial, dummy. Okay, so he said, who asked you about what you saw when you looked at the taillight. He said, Attorney Lally. So, I still wonder why they didn't cross the guy, but obviously he gave Lally what the defense thought they needed, which was the taillight was cracked, not totally damaged. That phrase, and they just left it alone. So, okay, here we go.
Were you in full uniform?
Full uniform.
Gun, badge, the whole works.
The whole works.
Did you ever go inside the house?
Briefly,
What was the circumstance of going inside the house?
I went inside to let the troopers know that the tow truck operator was there. And I also went in to ask how we're going to get the tow truck into the driveway because there was about a foot of snow.
Okay. That sort of answers my next question. Did you see whether or not Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan actually did go inside the residence?
Yes, they did.
For the bulk of the time that they were in the residence, where were you?
Outside the residence.
Were you with the black SUV?
I was in the garage speaking to the defendant's mother.
The defendant's mom?
Yes.
Janet? Okay.
Yes.
Where was the SUV at this point?
In the driveway.
Did you have an opportunity to see the SUV?
I did.
Did you walk all the way around it?
Not all the way around.
Did you see the rear end of it?
I did.
Did you make note of the rear end of it?
Yes.
How long would you say you were at the location in a position to observe the rear end of that SUV? 2 minutes, 20 minutes, something in between, longer?
I would say not the entire time that I was there, but a good amount of time.
More than a glance.
Yes.
This is the afternoon of January 29th, 2022, correct?
Correct.
Before the vehicle had been seized formally by Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan, correct?
Correct.
Did you observe anything of note about the rear end of that black SUV?
Yes, I noted in a report that there was damage to the taillight,
Can you describe for the juror, by the way, which taillight are we talking about?
the right rear taillight.
Can you describe for the jurors what you noted in terms of the damage to the right rear taillight?
I noted that the report said that there was right rear damage to that taillight.
When you say damage, have you ever described that damage previously?
I have.
Can you tell us what that
Yep.
description is?
There was, it was damaged. The taillight was damaged, but there was a crack missing, but it was not completely damaged.
When you say there was a crack, do you mean there was a piece missing?
A piece was missing.
Can you describe for the jurors kind of what that piece looked like, how big it was, how small, the shape, as you call it?
The piece was about maybe this big,
Is that maybe the size of a dollar bill, maybe 6 inches?
6 inches. or
And
so.
how wide?
Maybe that wide, maybe 3 inches, 2 inches, somewhere
Okay.
in there.
Okay, now this was new stuff, right? And we heard Brennan latch onto this when he did his cross-examination. And there was a little bit of a weird hesitation when he did the description, if you match it up against his first trial testimony, where first he misspoke, I think, and said that there was a crack missing or something, not a piece missing, and Alan Jackson corrected that. But to go into that description, dollar bill size, 6 inches, 2 to 3 inches wide, that was new stuff that Brennan had to deal with. And I think it helps the defense, but when you see the taillight, I mean, to me, the big impression with this witness is when he sees that picture that the prosecution has been relying on, right? And says, no, didn't look like that to me, which is where we are.
I want to show you a photo. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would like to show Exhibit 13. It's been previously marked. Do you see what's depicted in this photograph?
I do.
What does that appear to be, just generally?
The right rear taillight,
Of what?
the Lexus SUV.
Is that consistent with the black Lexus SUV that you saw at the Reed residence?
That was the black Lexus. That was not the taillight the day I was there.
Can you do me a favor, Mr. Wolk? With the court's permission, could we zoom in on the right rear taillight?
I mean, he's
please?
offered it up, but here's the real
Do
setup.
you see the condition of that taillight as it's depicted in this photo?
I do.
Sergeant Barros, is this the condition of the right rear taillight when you showed up at the Reed household at around 3:15 in the afternoon on January 29th, 2022?
Absolutely not.
Boom, can we stop it
What's
right there?
different about this photo?
And he uses that phrase, absolutely not, more
Absolutely
than
not.
once.
That's like a double jam. I mean, oh my.
Well, I mean, well,
oh.
look at that picture. I mean, you know how hard it would be to get that so cleanly broken out like that, having broken a taillight or two in my life. You know,
including our exemplar. Including our
Yeah.
exemplar.
it doesn't break out like cleanly, and you can see on the right edge of the picture the chunk that remains. That's how the whole thing would be breaking out. You'd have pieces, you know, hanging onto the edge all around the thing. It just wouldn't break out cleanly like that.
All right, so let's do two questions while we're going to go here. Leon Lately, hi Leon Lately, you won the prize
Yes,
of news, right?
yes,
Leon,
and I sent
thank
a
you.
note of explanation saying we've had our issues sending a mug. Apologies to Sheila in Ireland, and there's some stringent issues. Apparently, a lot of mugs come into the country that do bad things. So we're definitely going to make every effort possible. But if there's some delay, that's where I'm blaming the process.
So thanks, Linda and Michael, for all your excellent legal analysis. Love the rants, Linda. Thank you very much. I'll try to keep doing them when I think they're appropriate. And everyone seems to love my rants. Okay. And then also Java time on what you just said. Do you think the jurors think Barros is credible, even though he agreed with Hank on a few key points? Michael?
Yeah, I think it helps make him even more credible, right? You know, because a human is not 100% right 100% of the time. And he admitted that, but not on the substance that really mattered.
Yeah. And one final thing, I would just note, our friend Joe Giacalone is one of the greatest forensic investigators, teaches, wrote the book on it, police officer who's been on our show. If you go back and look at his episode with us, this is what he wrote about 3 hours ago. He said, quote, Sergeant Barros just sunk the Commonwealth's battleship. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Hashtag Karen Reed. Wow. That's from a real police officer about a real police officer. Okay, so absolutely, we've got the jabs, we've got the uppercuts. Boom. Michael Bryant, is our Starlink out again? I think.
Am I back?
You're back. You got a little delay in our Starlink.
Little hiccup there. But again, anytime I'm in this overhang right across from the courthouse, there's trees, and I think we're doing pretty well so far. Though, let me know if it gets to be a problem. Are we ready to continue?
Yep.
All right.
Photo, sir.
That tail light is completely smashed out.
Does it appear that there are additional pieces of taillight that are removed from this taillight condition than when you saw it at the Reed residence? Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Of course. Describe specifically, other than the fact that it's different, describe in detail for the jurors what is different about this taillight as it's photographed here.
That middle section was intact when I was there. Towards that right side where that large chunk is, that's what was missing.
I'm going to hand you a green laser pointer. If you can, there's two displays, one monitor directly in front of you and one to your right. If you could use the one to your right, it's a little easier on the jurors. Describe what's different about that taillight.
Can you see that? So this area was intact. This is what I saw was missing here.
May I approach?
Yes.
If the entire taillight had been broken out as it's depicted in this photograph, would you have made note of that?
Sustained.
Do you believe you would remember if the taillight, well, let me ask it a different way. The piece that you saw missing, but not completely damaged, is the reason that you use the phrase not completely damaged to highlight the fact that there was still more taillight attached to the vehicle than is depicted in this photo?
Sustained.
Oh,
Just
take this down.
so obvious.
As you sit here and recall back to that, your observations, and you observed this for over the course of how long would you say? How many minutes?
Probably 20 minutes or so.
20 minutes. I didn't expect that.
You actually wrote
I
a
know,
report about
20
this,
minutes.
correct?
That's brutal.
Correct.
And you documented your observations, correct?
Correct.
In your documented observations, did you use the phrase cracked but not completely damaged?
I did not.
Sustained.
So ridiculous.
You've testified previously,
I have.
about a year ago.
Yes.
Did you use the phrase cracked but not completely damaged then?
The objection sustained, Mr. Jackson.
Why?
Why?
Ultimately, was the black Lexus SUV towed and cleared from the scene?
It was.
Is it your responsibility or part of your responsibility to log the time that things like this happen? Like, for instance, the SUV is taken away?
When I cleared from the scene, yes.
What time was that when you cleared the scene?
I believe it was 4:17 p.m.
Suffice it to say that SUV was not seized at a later time, correct?
Correct.
It was not seized at 5:30 p.m.?
No.
I'd like to show you another exhibit, if I could. This is exhibit 105. Do you recognize this scene generally?
I do.
Do you recognize it as being what do you recognize as being?
This is the Reed residence.
Do you see some vehicles in that still shot of the video?
I do.
Describe what you see.
That tow truck is Diamond Towing, and that other vehicle that's at the rear of that tow truck is the Lexus SUV.
If we could, with the court's permission, zoom in. It's high on the screen, correct?
What's that?
The vehicles are high on the screen as we're
Correct.
looking at it. Could we zoom in to the top left portion of the screen?
Okay.
Can we play this video?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
There's your 3-point turn. That's going to be the 1162-2 key. We know that.
Hmm.
Can you see what's depicted in the
Whoa.
still image of that video right now?
I can.
I'm going to ask you if you'll turn to your right, concentrate on this area. This area here. Do you see what's depicted back? You see the red?
Yes.
Is that the condition of the taillight as you saw it on January 29th around 3:15 and 3:30 when you got to the location?
It was.
Let's go back to the other exhibit.
You know, one of the first questions he asked, he didn't get the right answer. He said, "Does that taillight appear to be clear or red or clear?" And he said, "Clear." Well, that wasn't the right answer. So Alan Jackson says, "Clearly, it doesn't look clear. It looks red and looks like almost a yellowish
Almost
part,
yellow. Yeah, yeah.
which is weird because nobody's gotten into why in the hell was it looking yellow." But the bottom part you can see is clearly red. So Alan Jackson had to re-ask that question in a different way to get what he was looking for, which was what everybody could see. And that
Right.
is, yeah, there's a hell of a lot of taillight looking at me right there compared to the picture that the prosecution says is the condition after the 1232 event, right?
Right.
Why
You're a
are there
big
yellow
fan about
numbers
it.
below the rear,
Listen, yeah,
I-
I don't know. What are the yellow numbers?
below the rear window? Let's see if we can
Is it 13?
see. I risk
is your
backing
RV?
this up. I'm gonna have to
Can you
look
zoom
at
in,
it
please?
again.
And you see that this entire area is now missing?
Sustained. Just ask it differently.
Sure. The area that I'm circling here, do you see any red lens in that area?
No.
Is that consistent, this photograph consistent with the condition of the taillight as you saw it on January 29th, 2022, at just after 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
I remember
Please.
it's important that on the video, it has this timestamp, I think, of 4:17, and I don't believe that was disputed. I think that's considered legit. He got the call, I believe it was at 3:27. Then he goes out there. Why is that important? Because it's well before that 5 o'clock period, right? When
Right.
the car was in the Sally Port and there was a lot of access to the vehicle by Proctor and et al., as they say.
Thank you.
We have to listen to Brennan. Maybe just a few questions.
Yeah.
So,
Good afternoon, sir.
how he
Good
tried to
afternoon.
Oh, God.
demean-
Have we
how
met
he tried to
before?
We have not.
demean Barros. I mean,
What is-
what I get is how he tried to demean Barros and badger the honest police officer, and he put forward someone like Dever, and he put forward, he's still, even though he hasn't put him on, Proctor and Buchanan, all these other people, and tried to demean the honest police officer that works in the state of Massachusetts. Unbelievable.
Yep, and has no dog in this fight. He's just, a guy he was there. He picked up the phone, right? He picked up the phone at the Dighton Police Department and said, "Oh, sure, I can meet you out there, and we'll arrange the tow truck for you."
Do you still work in Dighton?
I do.
At the
Mm,
time you went to the Reed residence, you did not know the occupants?
I did not.
Since then, have you ever met or spoke to William Reed
Nope.
or the defendant?
Nope.
When you went there that day, it was at the request of the state police?
Correct.
When they asked you to come, it's a typical procedure for one law enforcement agency to contact local law enforcement agency?
Correct.
And part of the reason they do that is to bring in separate and independent law enforcement officer to the scene
Yes.
because it's your jurisdiction.
Correct.
And they called you before they got to Mr. Reed's house, didn't they?
Yes.
They told you what they were going to do and when they were going to do it.
Yes.
They didn't just show up at the Reed house and then you found out later. They invited you and informed you what the process was going to be.
I wouldn't say that they told me what the process was going to be.
When you got there, were the troopers already there or did they arrive after you?
The troopers were there.
Were they in the house or outside of the house when you got there?
They were outside in a pickup truck.
Did you see them get out of the pickup truck after you got there?
They got out after I identified themselves.
Did you ever see them approach and touch the rear taillight of the defendant's Lexus?
I did not.
Did you ever see them manipulate in any way that rear taillight of the defendant's Lexus?
I did not.
Did you see them do anything that was suspicious, inordinary, or unfairly remarkable relative to that car?
I did not.
When they spoke to you, they then went inside the house?
What do you mean by spoke to me?
After they introduced you, you introduced yourself to them, they went into the Reed house,
Yes.
and then they came out.
They came out much later.
And that vehicle was towed.
Correct.
At no time from when you got there until you left, did you see anybody from the state police in any way tamper with that vehicle, did you?
I did not.
When
Okay, so we get what he's getting at here, which is, of course, there was no blatant, obvious destruction of the taillight by Buchanan or Proctor while he was there to tow the vehicle. We get
while
that.
there's a tow truck operator, while there's another witness, while the
Yeah.
Reed's there.
Excuse
Oh,
me.
yeah.
Before you take that vehicle away, Mr. Reed, you have a hammer? You have a hammer? Yeah, let me bang the shit out of this taillight for you. Okay, now you can take it. Of course, none of that happened. Of course.
Okay. Of course not.
But he has to ask. I get it. I understand that. Now I'm
I
going to try
don't know.
something. I'm going to try something tricky here.
A couple things. Freedom Ring. Let me just say, Freedom Ring. Thank you for that donation. We really appreciate all your
Appreciate that.
donations. Obviously, two questions. First, Linda and Michael, do you think the defense should have provided with his prior trial testimony? Rookie mistake. I think there was an issue with this. The defense, they met with him, but they didn't want to suggest that they were in any way letting him change his testimony or remembering it. And so I think that Alan Jackson got it out what he had said. And quite frankly, I think it was a distinction without a difference because, everyone saw the light and then they saw the light in the
Yeah.
Sally part. And then Freedom Ring says, today we saw true misogyny in the cross of Dr. Russell and ageism. You're absolutely right. And what we're seeing from Hank Brennan, we're going to see here is true disgust because anyone who tells the truth, they'd rather not have anybody tell the truth in that courtroom because they want to win at all costs. Freedom Ring, maybe I'll do a rant on that.
Uh-oh.
Probably not tomorrow. maybe Friday we'll take the end of the week rant and talk about everything we've seen in the courtroom. Thank you for bringing both of these issues up.
Okay, I'm going to try to zoom to, this is tricky, to what I think is the redirect.
Which was great. What happened was, remember the whole idea of the objections that Hank Brennan was made. Well, he opened the door for Alan Jackson to drive the proverbial F-150 police vehicle truck right through it and maybe run the Commonwealth's case over. Let's listen to that, Michael.
Okay.
We can.
Okay. I think I'm going to work on it. I think, oh, there's Mr. Brennan. We are not quite ready for more of him. Hold on.
No, I've had enough of him.
You got enough of him? Linda, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Hold on.
I know what I saw, and that wasn't it.
Well, that's not what I'm asking you. Because
Oh, I'm sorry. It's
you
the end
just
of
testified.
Hank Brennan. I
Yeah,
couldn't
on the
fine
road.
That's
tune it
okay.
for you.
That was a good answer. I know what I saw, and that was not it.
That's my
Okay.
application.
You know,
No.
that's the, excuse me.
So it's not a matter of you
It's a family
hurting
show.
yourself
That's the middle
online.
finger. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that won't get us censored.
That won't get us censored. That's the middle
Matter of
finger.
difficulties with memory, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, correct.
And you've shared those same
Everybody has a
difficulties
difficulty with memory,
on
but
the
Hank.
other Objection.
Sustained.
You have, as is human nature, difficulties with memory at times, correct?
Correct.
And so that very certain memory you had about your testimony last year, fair to say that never happened.
Correct.
You were simply mistaken, weren't you? Or something more, please tell me.
Correct.
So there was a point made there. Yeah, you know, again, I don't think it won the day, but definitely a point made.
I don't have the date. I don't recall the date.
I'm not looking for a date, just the general year frame. Last year, this year?
Probably June. Early in this year.
Are you having some difficulty with memory about that as well?
On a certain date, yes.
Not a certain date. Was it this year probably, or do you think you met them this year?
This year.
You know what month you met them this year?
I wouldn't know the month.
Certainly you talked.
You know, that goes to what our viewer was asking about, and you were talking about, Linda, and that is, you know, how much do you share, you know, with a prospective witness? I talked about it earlier this afternoon.
Yes.
And the question, hold on, I'll hold that for a second. The question is, you know, yeah, we want to meet with the guy, and for those who think that, well, why'd you have to meet with him? Couldn't you do that on phone? Couldn't you you know, find out the scheduling, advise him he's going to be subpoenaed, work around his vacation? Oh, yeah, you could. But it is, to me, so valuable with any witness to get a little FaceTime, you know, just to make that connection. For no,
He met him at the hotel, and Hank Brennan.
Yes.
Hank Brennan sounded like it was.
you mean
an affair.
nefarious,
It was an
nefarious.
affair. A
Yes.
conference room
Yeah.
at a hotel.
What is this, The Graduate? What's happening here? Yeah. So I don't think meeting him in person was a big deal, but to the point of our viewer that you know, you don't want to go through his transcript and say, well, here's what you testified before, or any changes planned. Because that then comes up when Brennan is doing his cross-examination. You know, what did you talk about? We talked about scheduling. We talked about, you know, are you going to be able to testify? What's your vacation? So it worked out fine. You have to be very, very careful about that, because anything you talk about is discoverable and it's going to come out.
Right.
Okay, here's the redirect.
The fact that you had a birthday, you recall, correct?
Correct.
The day of the week of that birthday may fall by the wayside in your mind, right?
Right.
Sustained as to the form, Mr. Jackson is
Of
your
course.
witness.
The fact that you can't remember the day of the week, does that mean that you have a bad memory?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
Correct.
You remember being in Dighton, correct? Being called out to Dighton, to the residents of the Reeds.
Correct.
Do you remember the time?
I do.
Do you remember the weather?
I do.
Do you remember who you met there?
I do.
Do you remember the conversations that you had?
I do.
Do you remember the phone calls that you received?
I do.
The First one?
I do.
The second one?
I do.
Do you remember being in the garage and speaking with someone?
I do.
Remember it was this lady, pretty lady right here in the blue?
I do.
You remember meeting Mr. Reed?
Briefly.
Handsome gentleman with the gold tie?
I do.
You remember all that? Right?
Mhm.
Do you remember the SUV?
I do.
Do you remember the condition of the taillight?
I do.
It's great.
Yep. Yep.
You were asked whether or not you saw Trooper Proctor in any way manipulate that right rear taillight while it was out at Dighton while you were there, correct?
Correct.
You said no. Honestly, I never saw him touch it, right?
Correct.
Were you in the Sallyport in Canton PD? I'm sorry, in Canton, in the Sallyport at the police station
I wasn't.
at 5:30 p.m.?
Sustained.
Now,
At any point,
why can't you
did
ask
you ever
that
go
question?
to the Sallyport
I don't know.
at Canton PD that day?
I did not.
Do you have any idea what did or didn't happen inside the Sallyport?
Sustained.
You either
were
do
asked
or
by
you
Mr.
don't.
Brennan,
You know, it's
you
only
could have taken
speculation if
photos
you
as
suggest you
wanted
know
to,
and you weren't.
correct?
Correct.
And certainly you could have, right?
Correct.
Was that your vehicle that was being seized?
No.
You were simply there to assist another officer, right?
Before Mr. Jackson.
Of course. What were you there to do?
Just to assist another agency.
Would it have been normal protocol for you to photograph that vehicle?
No.
Did you see Trooper Proctor photograph the vehicle?
No.
Did you see Sergeant Buchanan photograph the vehicle?
No.
Can we stop it for a second, Michael?
You bet.
Because I want to give credit to, again, our 16-year-old Skyhopper,
Skyhopper.
16 Media, who gives her allowance to us. I love you guys. You rule. Thank you. Obviously, you have your mom, certified nurse specialist, right? Your grandpa was on when you were they had a little concussion last week and stitches, or 2 weeks ago, I guess it was by now. Your sister was on. Your whole family's on. We thank you for being such great supporters, Skyhopper, T16 Media. And really, you don't have to give us your allowance.
No, you don't.
We'd rather you keep it for yourself and just join our chat and be with us. And I'll try to keep myself
I was going to say,
PG-rated.
and watch your mouth, please.
Not you, Skyhopper. Me.
No.
I'm sorry. I just had to interrupt for her.
Okay.
By the way, you and I did meet once before, correct?
Correct.
Was that before or after you testified last year at another hearing?
After.
And you were called by whom last year at the other hearing? The defense or the Commonwealth?
The Commonwealth.
You testified for them?
Correct.
So that's stricken. It's beyond the scope.
What are you talking about? They attacked us bias.
Did the Commonwealth ever contact you after your testimony at the hearing last year?
They did not.
Ask
Did they ever call you?
for what you want. You get it worse.
After?
Correct.
No.
Did they ever send you a subpoena?
No.
And you testified last year that the taillight was cracked, but not, or damaged, but not completely broken, correct?
Sustained.
It was asked and answered, but he made a point.
You and I met in a hotel in a conference room, correct?
Correct.
Anything sketchy or nefarious about that?
No.
Did I introduce myself to you?
You did.
You happen to know I live in Los Angeles?
Correct.
I don't have a house, right?
Correct.
I don't have an office out here, correct?
Yes.
Sustained.
Do you know whether or not I have an office?
I do not.
Do you remember me asking you if you would mind meeting at a hotel where I was staying in a conference room?
I do.
Okay. Do you have any problem with that?
Nope.
Do you find that unusual?
No.
Did you and I ever speak, ever, before your testimony last year?
No.
Did I ever tell you how I wanted you to testify?
No.
Did I ever tell you what to say?
No.
Did I show you any testimony?
No.
Did I play you any video?
No.
Did I show you a single photograph?
No.
During that conversation, did you tell me how to subpoena you?
I did.
Did you tell me where the subpoena should be directed?
I did.
Did you tell me your vacation schedule?
I did.
Did you tell me your availability and willingness to testify?
I did.
Did we talk about any other thing of substance other than that, and whether or not you recalled what your testimony was from last year?
That was all we talked about.
As you sit here, Sergeant Barros, do you have any difficulty recalling what the condition of that taillight was on January 29th, 2022, at about 3 or 3:15 in the afternoon when you saw the vehicle? Any
No.
difficulty whatsoever?
No.
You remember the condition of that taillight?
I do.
Was the condition of that taillight the same as the photo that I showed you on my direct examination?
No.
And scene, right? So I don't know that there was more you could get from this guy. I don't know. I don't know that it could have gone any better. And it was as we expected. The key difference was, hey, Commonwealth, why didn't you call this guy? If I'm on the jury, I know why after the fact, right? Because they're not dummies. They're going, oh, this guy decimated the Commonwealth case. But they called him in the first proceeding, whatever that was, and decided not to contact him after that or call him in this trial. I just think that speaks volumes to his credibility and the Commonwealth's fear of what this guy had to say.
Right. And then for all Hank Brennan's trying to prevent Lucky, the snowplow driver, from being on and the other witness from being on, they ended with this witness who did, body blows to the congressman, just body blows, and he was and to put him right after Dever yesterday to show you what a good cop and bad cop. I said to you, Michael Bryant, I think he should be person of the week.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think he should be person of the week. So maybe tomorrow when we're on, tomorrow night we're on, we can applaud him, because I think any police officer, remember I'm sure his department supports him. I'm sure they're proud of him for telling the truth, because, my experience with cops know when other cops are bad, right?
Yep.
And they don't want to be associated with him.
Nope.
Right?
And it's clear he does not want to be. And, and we talk about, or I should say, I talk about this axis of evil, Stoughton, Canton, Dedham. Dighton's not that far away. But they are distinct and separate and a whole different force. And they may have their own thoughts about what has happened or might have happened in Canton, Dedham.
Right. And they don't want to be part of it. Now, do you want to transition before we talk about what's going to happen tomorrow in the case to just the Diddy question real quickly that we've had waiting the whole show?
See that. Oh, we're battling. We're battling. I'm not going to touch it.
We're
there
battling for
okay.
the screen. Okay. You want me to read it? Do you want to read it?
Oh, go ahead. Read away.
I'm going to ask you. It's a Diddy
Sure.
update. President Trump asked if he would pardon Diddy. He said they used to be friends before he went into politics, and he would look at everything and see if he was treated fair. Let me just add to that. 50 Cent, who's been after Diddy for the last 10 years about how he is a pervert of sorts, said basically not over his dead body he was going to contact President Trump directly. Your thoughts?
Isn't that interesting that what we're even talking about here? We have one hip hop star who's facing incredible charges in federal court. We have another hip hop star coming to the support of his position, and both of them effectively lobbying the president of the United States. That's weird. So I think Trump likes to say a lot without saying anything, which is what I think he said here. He didn't outright say, if he were to say, no, I will never pardon that man, isn't he convicting a guy who's currently presumed innocent? If he says, of course I would pardon him, that I can't see any upside to that at all. So he said the neutral nothing answer, which is, I want to see if he's treated fairly. I mean, it's a nothing answer. I saw other folks suggesting that he has already pledged to pardon him if convicted, and I've not seen evidence of that.
No, I had not seen that, but it is interesting that's in the news, and it is what it is. Okay, R-Q 999. Thank you again for your donation. It keeps Michael Bryant here. Maybe gives him something to eat along with everyone else who's been supporting us. Excellent witness. I think Barros has been the best witness that has testified in this case that we're both trials. I think today, and it goes to show you too, I thought Alan Jackson, that direct was just a work of wonder, in my opinion.
Yeah, he used some very simple examples of memory issues that everybody has in day-to-day life, right? To basically rehabilitate this witness who was allegedly having some memory issues, even though they weren't substantive, in my opinion. They were, they were glancing blows, if anything, for the prosecution. But Alan Jackson comes in and cleans this mess up by making the jury understand exactly the difference between a substantive memory issue and just, do you remember what day of the week your wedding was? Well, probably Saturday for most people, but you know what I mean? Your birthday was a year ago. What day of the week was? I don't know.
What did you have for breakfast last Wednesday, Michael Bryant?
Last Wednesday, let's see, probably some lovely pastries in Praia de Luz.
Well, probably, but you don't know.
Of course I don't know.
Where were you 3 months ago? On 3 months ago to the day today.
Yeah, I have no clue, of course.
No, I mean, these are things that are not, are not in your memory. And by the
were
way,
inconsequential.
they're inconsequential. I call out trolls. Let me call out a troll. So I posted today on the Justice Serve TV and on my personal account that Hank Brennan was badgering this very honest cop, and I think that his cross-examination bordered on badgering, and I did say that. So some troll by the name, and let me call them out, who doesn't have they're a troll because they don't have put their
not
picture,
a real name.
Not a real name. Bleed Green 13. You can go find it at JAGR 2023. Says
sounds like a bot.
Brennan, it's bot. Brennan was badgering Barros. You've never watched Cross before, I suppose. Well, let me tell you, sir, I've watched so many crosses and tried a lot more and done a lot more cross-examination than you have brain cells in your brain, sir. Okay.
Yes. So there, harumph.
Yeah. I'm just going to thank you. Oh, Joey did a Venmo. Thank you for your Venmo, Joey. Thank you. We don't get to see that on the screen.
But we do. I appreciate that. But we do generally, when we find them, we do acknowledge them. So it just doesn't happen instantaneously.
I love it. It's for the dogs. It's for Domino and Tubi.
The dogs and the mods.
Okay, perfect.
So noted. Yes.
So, and should we get them a pig chew so that we can talk about the pig DNA that was probably found? We didn't even talk about that today. Where we talked about it at lunch, where Hank Brennan went to a place he should not have come. By the way, yes, I do snap back. I don't suffer the trolls, and I'm going to snap back. And if you want to be a bot, whatever, you want to come after us, like apparently somebody came after us with regard to our. We're going to tell you about our monetization on our all-day stream today. The anti-Karen Read people are out. Nan Gallagher's Facebook page has been attacked. So we're going to attack back. We're not sitting still because we're here to bring you the truth. We're here to bring you our opinions, and we're here to remind you that the Commonwealth must prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, and preferably with people that don't lie or who have memory issues, like Ms. Dever. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Dever.
Never say Dever. Okay, before we go, let me just make this one comment, because it's amazing that we're sitting here talking about an honest cop. Is that weird to you? We're making a big deal out of an honest cop.
Right. Yes.
The fact that this case is rife with apparently low-end, low-rent liars and cheats who wear badges and have guns is unfortunate. It is sad, and we're making a big deal out of an honest cop.
That should be your rant. You should do a rant on that.
No, I'm not going to step on the rant world of LKP. I may have an occasional well-reasoned comment, but I'll leave the ranting to you.
Yeah, but that's we're talking about. I'm going to write that down. We're talking about an honest cop, and that's the big deal.
By the way,
news. Discworld Edge. Which yes, I tried the first Phil Spector case against Alan Jackson. As a matter of fact, here's the poster on the movie.
Hey, whoa!
Is made. Whoa, is right there. Signed by everyone down below. Helen Mirren played me. I got the hung jury. Alan was shocked, but as a result of two warriors fighting for 6 months, he went on to run for LADA. He lost. I got pneumonia. I mean, so we all suffered.
All winners.
We all suffered a little bit. Discworld Ed Witch says, "You're like my mom, who's also driven, unflappable New Yorker." I'm actually a Jersey girl.
She's a New Jersey girl.
Allegedly Maver. I like Severed Dever better than
Never Say Dever.
Speaking about the woman, who's the woman who severed her boyfriend's head? She was in court today. throwing kisses at
Oh my
the
gosh.
media, you know, and
Like,
to making it count. Thank you again for your donation for the honest Leo law
yep.
enforcement officer. Yes, you know, really, that we should do something on that. That we are making a big deal about an honest cop. You know, maybe we'll ask Joe Jockalone to join us again as
Yeah.
to why it's such a big deal. Is it a big deal everywhere, or is it a big deal just in this trial? Maybe we'll ask Joe, since he tweeted on it and since we stole his tweet today.
Yeah. So tomorrow we've got we think Lucky, right?
Right.
And then one other. Who was the other witness that we think is going to be tomorrow?
It's the woman who says that, and I can't think of her name. It's long, and she's coming with her lawyer, and that's the issue, whether or not the judge had to see her beforehand and all. Who said that Jen McCabe told her that to set her against Karen Reed, to make her hate Karen Reed, told her there was a ring video of Karen Reed hitting John O'Keefe, and so she basically lies. So, you know, Jen, the master manipulator. And remember, I'm interested in that because when I listened to everything all together, when Karen Reed explains why she said, "Did I hit him? Could I hit him?" is because Jen McCabe told her that John O'Keefe never came into the house. So it seems to be, and she's the one who also told Kerry Roberts something, made Kerry Roberts essentially tell mistruths to a grand jury. So she's becoming to be a master manipulator here.
No doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. So, and that's why the short day tomorrow is, either, I don't know if it's an overall witness scheduling issue or some other issue. We'll see. We'll see you tomorrow. And that means, Thursday, Friday, they should be fuller days. We think.
Yeah, and we think that they're going to have to start calling their medical examiner. They're going to have to start calling the dog bite expert. They're going to have to start calling ARCA. I would imagine they don't call ARCA to next week, but
I think they're good. I'm thinking they'll be last or pretty darn close to last. And then, of course, the rebuttal case is going to be longer than we would normally expect. But that could take us into the following. I think, what you think, 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
For sure.
We sum up and we have jury. I think we're looking at 3 weeks. And by the way, I wish Dr. Russell, the one thing I wish she would thought about with the DNA, because remember, she wasn't talking to anybody because she was I was told it was pig DNA. It's probably from a dog chew. Hello.
Yeah. That was our guess. And I was talking to, who was I talking to? We had on a guest, and I said, I'm just, spitballing here, but wouldn't there be some DNA from an ear, the pig ear? Who was that we had on? Was that Joe? I don't remember who that was. Somebody we were talking to.
So maybe we can reach out to Joe. I can send him a text and see if he's available tomorrow.
The Dare Beach caregiver.
Yeah, the Dare Beach caregiver. I say we make a charitable donation in honor of Sergeant Barros. That is really terrific. What a great idea. What a great idea, that an honor Sergeant Barros. And maybe tomorrow, Michael, you can put together. I know you have a lot going because you're going to be there tomorrow, right? You're going to be
tomorrow will be live out front here in the throngs, because I had a chance to talk with some of the folks today about the new and improved First Amendment zone, which is not perfect, but it's better. And so there is more of a collection of supporters not wearing any Free Karen Reed accoutrement, but just hanging out there, offering words of support. She's been very interactive with these folks. So I'll be diving into that, and then we'll have the morning covered. I'll have to relocate from my stray position wandering around. I'll have to find a place to plant, and then we'll do that, and then you'll join at lunch, right?
We're switching off. You're going to be taking the morning show tomorrow, and you'll be taking the part of the morning show on Thursday while I'm traveling, and then hopefully I'll be planned well before 1 o'clock, hopefully by noon or 11 or noon, and take over there. And then we have our 6 o'clock show both of those nights. And then Friday, I guess I'll be back on the morning show because you'll be traveling Friday.
Yeah, one more quick
just
trip.
So you all know. Yeah. So one of us will be covering pretty much everything. And it all makes it worthwhile because of everybody that's watching here. But before you all go, could you please, and I didn't do it, hit the like button, please. Could we hit the like button? Let me just wait for a second. And the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. The share and notify, but it gets us into the algorithm, which we're almost approaching 15,000 viewers. We just, during the Karen Reed trial, we were excited to do 10,000 viewers, 10,000 subscribers, not viewers, when we were doing Karen Reed. And all of a sudden, we've just just almost really double. We're going to be almost possibly double that there. Let me just see what I just saw. Somebody was texting me, and it was somebody who has another show who just liked one of our tweets about the Commonwealth badgering the honest cop. So let's make that, maybe that should be a theme, the honest cop.
Yep.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, rare, I guess, at least in this case.
A rare case. And well, we got one more before you go. Auntie from Southie, $5. I wish I lived closer to Dedham. I'm in South Boston. Love
You're not
your
too
show.
far away.
Yeah,
Not too far away, Annie.
And it's somebody in Southie who sent us the Karina Homer case that we're going to take a look at, and we're going to get into finding or try to uncover the truth about some of these cold cases that no one really has either uncovered, or in our case of Stephanie, no one even cares about. No one knows who she is. But Michael Bryant, you always do.
Yep. And we are happy to bring you all of these different stories. We will continue to do so. And we'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, across the street here. In the meantime, I'm Michael Bryant. Try to do the right thing.
And I'm Linda Kenney Baden. Hit like, subscribe, share, notify, and I will see you at lunchtime tomorrow.